Productivity and performance. One of my favorites when it comes to well-rounded excellence pillars, right? So let's talk about it, right? There is so much talk about it in the industry. There is the whole separate industry of productivity and performance. There are coaches and Tony Robbins of the world, who is a legend in terms of like life coaching and things like that. Part of which is productivity. And you have other people who give you this, guidance, tips, tricks, advice on how to be effective. And I think you should listen. You should listen to a lot of perspectives out there. You have to find what works for you, and you have to incorporate the best, most effective strategies, which part of my job will be when it comes to coaching you is actually doing exactly that, finding what works for you in a custom, tailored manner. But then of course there are some universal principles that have to be accepted that are also science-backed. You can't overlook those, right? But when I'm talking about productivity and performance, the goal here is to understand why is it important. And I think if you're watching this video, it's important to you by default. But why is it important in a spectrum of you becoming well-rounded? Well, truth is, you can't be well-rounded in a certain domain of life if you are not skilled, if you don't have correct mindset, habits, and behaviors that actually make you lean towards being well-rounded, well-spoken, just a great, high-performing individual. So essentially, having all those things is a precursor for being a high performer. But on the flip side, being a high performer is kind of requires those things, and it's also a precursor to be well-rounded. One of the 6 that I identified as being the most important pillars of excellence, right? So what is productivity and performance really? There is not enough videos that I can make about this, but in this introductory, more so sum it up kind of version, I'm gonna give you a few examples and a few scenarios. But of course, goal setting is one of the things that everything starts with when it comes to productivity and performance. You can't truly be productive if you don't know what the heck you are doing actually, and what is your goal, like what's the metric that you will measure your success with, and what are you trying to achieve really. So you gotta be able to set effective goals, and I'm gonna talk about how to set them and how that can look like in a second, but just identifying this as an important aspect of productivity and performance, right? The next one is time and task management, and I specifically put these two together because people often think about time management, but you know what's interesting? And I caught myself doing that mistake, as a matter of fact, if I'm very honest. When it comes to task management, people often have in their heads that there's certain task, like let's say you want to make a video for your YouTube channel, or you need to submit a large project for your employer, or you need to submit an essay for one of the classes at school. And you think in your head, because you're emotionally attached to this task, that it requires certain time. And then you are struck by the fact that you were totally off when you were thinking how much time it takes. In fact, sometimes, let's say you want to write an email, and some emails take like 3 minutes, other emails might take 20 minutes. It just depends what kind of email we are talking about. Is that a newsletter? Is it a response to your client? Is that some sort of emotional drama, conflict-focused email or something, right, that you're trying to handle? Regardless, you can be emotionally attached and you can think and misjudge the time it takes for you to accomplish, right? So in other words, what I'm saying, it might take much less time than you think. On the other hand, it might take much more time than you think. For instance, you thought to create a course and you thought it's gonna take you 6 hours to shoot 6 videos, 1 video per hour, right? And I'm not saying that's not possible. People probably have created courses even in less time. What I'm trying to say that what if your standards for that particular course have been so high where you wanted to research what you will talk about at length, number one, and you did not separate researching as a separate task. You decided to blend it in with this one big task, one big goal. I want to create a course and I think it's going to take me 6 hours, and you're totally off because again, you did not account for the research, you did not account for spending time on the setup. You came, like for example, I came here in the office, I have this whiteboard. It takes at least a few minutes to put the phone or video camera, to put a stand, to figure out if everything has the battery life that's needed in order to be able to deliver this video, right? And so it's important for you to understand that all of these small things, logistics around a certain task, will take time as well. And maybe you want to have a few takes. Maybe you make one video, you don't like it, you want to make it and change. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Now, when talking about execution, that also kind of binds into the goal setting, time and task management, you gotta be able to understand that that at the end of the day, you gotta execute. And this is part of being a performer. You can't just set goals, be smart about timing, and be smart about tasks. You gotta be an effective executioner, and you gotta get stuff done. As cliche as it sounds, because if you don't, then again, what are you talking about? How can you perform at all? How can you measure your performance if you're not accomplishing certain milestones before you get to the ultimate objective? Okay, then this one. It's very interesting. Digital minimalism. I included it recently only into this whole pillar of productivity and performance, and the reason for it is that we live in this super digital world where you're required to kind of remove all the noise and get focused. And getting focused becomes, as a matter of fact, I should put here focus, which also can be part of mental fortitude and a few other pillars we talked about, but focus tied to digital minimalism here. How can you remove the noise? How can you get focused? How can you put a screen timer on your phone apps? How can you put your phone away? How can you work in sprints, 20 minutes, let's say, super focused work, productive work, and then like 3 to 5 minute break, whatever works for you, but also some scientifically proven strategies. I want you to understand that finding a way to appreciate digital minimalism and create a structure for yourself, whether it's your apps, your phone, your laptop, your tablet, whatever it is around you from a digital standpoint. If your work, if your job, if your business is in alignment with that, if it requires you to have any digital interactions, either by yourself using technology or with someone else, right? When you partner or collaborate with a team, which, by the way, no matter what your industry is or aspiration, it's really hard for me to imagine that you will not have any exposure to digital. You probably will use some technology at some point. So your ability to minimize and remove unnecessary steps is going to increase your chances of performance really high. Now, agility, and I'm going to marry it to speed here. Which technically is different things, but it's very important for you to understand that you always will have hurdles. Again, I can give you an example. I was working on my website and I chose Webflow as a CMS for it. And then I was wondering how fast can I get there, because I had a learning curve, right? I'm not a coder or anything like it. I used WordPress before and I used some short codes and some plugins, whatever. So I had some experience of creating a website, but I wasn't really that knowledgeable in it. And I was absolutely frustrated that the learning curve seemed to me was too long, which, by the way, it's not an objective statement. I like Webflow, FYI, and they did not pay me. I'm not promoting them here, but I'm just saying, this is my example, right? I had to understand that I had to be agile, I had to maneuver, and I had to appreciate the fact that I will have a hurdle. It's gonna take even more time to accomplish a few tasks in order to accomplish my goal. Meaning, I chose the platform to create a website on. The hurdle was the learning curve and all of the tasks that would require some learning, like creating a blog, or you actually learning a code, or having some design changes, buying a template, negotiating this, negotiating that. So the tasks took much more time, and it all took much more time to get to my goal to build a website. But you gotta be agile, you gotta maneuver. So you gotta appreciate the hurdles, and you also gotta power through no matter what hurdle is, but you also gotta maneuver, meaning sometimes you do need to change. Now, I was too deep into in the process to change the platform entirely, but I did change some other tools that I used for my other goals, where I realized, oh, I can't accomplish this specific workflow I want to create, so I'm going to revert to a different tool. I'm going to maneuver, or I can't do it this way, I'm going to do it the other way. You know what I'm saying? Mostly there is always multiple alternatives as to what is the optimal solution. Sometimes it's just one thing that you don't like, you have to do, but the other times you can find another way. You can go around it, a walk around. I love that word. So that's agility, right? And then speed. Again, we talked about execution. You have to understand that speed, as difficult as it is, I don't think neither you nor me that will like this, but especially in this digital, fast-paced world, ever-changing, ever-growing, ever-noisy, you gotta still keep up with it, and you gotta be fast. Because if you're talking about business, for example, or sports, right, where competition is high, if you are very slow with your performance, if you are not performing, if you are not productive, you get stuck in the past while others get ahead and they get trendy, they understand the new innovation and new solutions, while you're still trying to figure out whatever they already have done. So that's not helping you gain any competitive advantage here. And you can put it in any scenario. Again, it can be your career, your job, education, athleticism, whatever the domain that you want to master there, or even in general, just as a human, for you to become more well-rounded, you gotta move fast. Read a little bit faster, be a little bit more efficient, sleep less, go to sleep earlier, but sleep less because you will feel good, your hormonal cycle will be great, you will have that deep cycle of sleep. Maybe that's the thing that you can do. I understand you might work at night, but whatever, you can figure it out. I'm just giving you an example here. Like I did it for myself, for example. I was thinking, how can I sleep less but feel the same, meaning have the same energy, the same level of energy? And actually all it took is to shift my sleep 2 hours back, right? I started sleeping like at 10 p.m. instead of midnight, and I was waking up much earlier, but I could allow myself to sleep less, right? So that helped me gain more energy and more time back in order to be faster with achieving my goals. Okay, so this is just an overview here, and again, in the same spirit with other pillars, I want to talk a little bit about few example questions you can ask yourself when it comes to your self-discovery with this particular pillar of excellence, and a few practical exercises. So you can ask yourself, but just by starting, what are my goals? I mean, I know it might sound so boring and like, I mean, come on, I know my goals, right? Do you actually know your goals? I'm not so sure, because people think that goals is like, I want to become an engineer, I want to become an astronaut. No, this is not a goal. This is some kind of dream. Goal needs to be specific. It should be insanely specific. Like, I have a goal this quarter or this month, I want to achieve, let's say if you talk about engineering, right? Let's say you're a student, like I want to get admission to these 3 Ivy League universities with engineering major focused on electrical engineering, and also I'm going to write a paper and And it might be goals for the next month, it might be goals for the next couple of months or several years, right? So you put it in blank what is here, for example. By the way, people say that New Year's resolution like is fake, it's a scam, it's not, nobody does that. That's not true. Some people do that. I actually do a New Year's resolution, but I don't like calling it that way. I'm not calling it anything. I'm simply in December, before the end of year, assessing all of my goals, how much I accomplished, and then creating a plan for the next year. And what I've done is that I have a plan of goals each year, and I also have a plan for the next 5 to 7 years, which also is shifting obviously because I'm achieving some of those goals in length of time. And so for me that what works, because I can have major big plan like a 5 to 10-year plan, and then I have each year goal plan. And to make it even more specific in terms of being time bound, I basically put it in categories, like the goal in health and fitness, the goal in value system, the goal in my faith, the goal in sports, whatever, the goal in business. And then I also put them in quarters. Like in business, actually that's what we do. Most public companies, they report their financial success in terms of metrics every quarter, so it's 3 months, right? That's what I do as well. It's just 1 month seems to be a little too short for me, but let's say if I have major 5-6 goals I want to accomplish in the next 3 months, that's a quarter, so that's how I do it. Again, do not confuse goals with tasks that are part of those goals. Also, do not confuse, definitions are important here. Do not confuse your goals with your ultimate objective, mission, and life purpose. Those are a little bit like different layers, if you will, different stories, if you will, of your entire major plan, life plan, and plan of action, right? So some goals can become milestones to achieve another goal. Like for example, my goal, again, I gave this example in another video, that I wanted to try scuba diving. Now my new goal is to become scuba diving pro, let's say. And let's say this year my goal is to do another certification. So that's going to become a milestone on the journey to get to my ultimate goal in the context of scuba diving only, or sports, right? Adventure sport, which is to become a scuba diving pro, which requires 50 dives, it requires multiple certifications, etc., etc., etc. The point is, I had certain set of tasks associated with prepping to book a trip and have equipment to dive and get trained to accomplish my goal each year or each 6 months, to then accomplish my, which will be milestones, to then accomplish my ultimate goal of becoming a scuba diving pro. So in that same manner, you gotta look at all of your goals in every area, in every category. And in fact, I'm gonna jump in here a little bit. So this question, I wanna go all the way to here, which is SMART goals. Now, SMART goals is basically stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Right? This is not new concept and I didn't create it. It's just like a cool way of expressing what the good effective goal setting should look like. And so I would encourage you to incorporate it, and that would be your exercise number 1 as an example. Now, the second self-discovery question I would ask myself and encourage you to do so is, how am I prioritizing tasks? Again, I'm not gonna stop and talk about this too much because we just talked about it in the context of this aspect that goes into the productivity, time and task management. Prioritization comes with understanding how much time a certain task takes. Prioritization comes with understanding what are your goals. Prioritization comes with understanding, again, how can you measure your success? And now we're going down here to the exercise number 2, which is metrics for success, right? You have to understand, how can you judge a success of a certain task or goal? For example, immigration is a troublesome, painful process for me, and God willing, it's gonna work out in the end. But one thing a lot of immigrants would know is that there are things that we can't control. This is just one example. There are so many other scenarios, but if you trying to set a goal in which you have the least control over achieving that goal, I'm not sure you actually have ability to create a proper metric that will be helpful to you in measuring your success. That means you need to a little bit sort of downgrade your goal, if you will. For example, green card lottery. A lot of people across the world try to play that to win the green card, which is residence in the United States, right? That cannot be a goal. Let's be real with each other. You just submit an application in 15 minutes and you pray that a computer will randomly select you to win that green card, which is 50,000 green cards across the world, while multiple millions of people apply. Critical thinking, logical thinking. Probability is low. You did not commit and did not earn much in order to win that, basically a lottery. So the question is it really your goal? Maybe your goal is to get a green card, and applying for a lottery is just one way to do it, which is still out of your control. So then you have to ask yourself, what are other ways to get that residence where there is much more action that you can take, and then you can judge what is the success in the end. Is it the success that you tried? Is it the success that you exhausted options that are within your control? Or is it the success, actual ultimate success, which is to get that residence, right? This is very important, because if you don't think about this, again, your goals, they are not leading anywhere. Just remember, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Now, finally, time audit. Again, I keep speaking about time, because everything is bound to time. We only have so much time. Or we don't have it, I get it. So execution, speed, right? Time and task management. And so it all comes down to also you auditing and checking yourself and figuring it out how much time things take. Start actually recording that. For instance, I was working on this and I was thinking, I have a corporate job, but I also have this business and I want to help people and I want to do things with my family and I want to continue work out really well, improve my health and fitness, blah, blah, blah. So many goals. It's all great, but actually how much I'm dedicating myself in real time each week to a given goal that I have. And then I took, for example, working on my website. Again, same example. And I thought, I probably dedicate myself like 20 to 25 hours a week to build that website. Turned out, by the way, I'm talking about andreitrapezonian.com. Unshameful plug here. And turned out it was not the case at all. I was dedicating myself like 10 to maybe 18 hours at most per week. And I realized, oh no, I'm underperforming in reality, while in my mind, I thought that I'm dedicating much more time. So see, you gotta check on yourself here and make some time audit. And you can put it on paper, any journal of yours, right? Productivity journal or anything. And again, another aspect of self-awareness here. And you gotta make sure you record how much you dedicate yourself to a given task or goal. And then you keep doing it a few times and you become more agile, more nimble, and you can do things faster, more effectively and more efficiently. So that's it. That's just an overview of this pillar, productivity and performance. I hope you got some good insights, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in personal security as one of the 6 super important pillars of well-rounded excellence. All right, see you there.